controller stood in his office, pacing on the phone. "Send the breakdown train." Yes, I'll be right over." With that, he set his phone into the front sleeve of his pocket and sighed. Not again. The need for stone had become of great importance. The Fat Controller had decided that new hopper wagons from the other railway would be brought in to help cover the loads. They'll be stronger, and you should be able to transport more stone per trip. The engines liked the sound of this. One morning, Kermit brought the new hoppers to the big station, where they'd be taken to places to be loaded. By the time some had returned, Barry had arrived to take the hoppers to the workstation. He eyed the train with great suspicion. All the trucks looked like your run-of-the-mill troublesome ones. All that is, except for one. It looked rugged and had patchy facial hair. Its scowl is what alerted him. "All right," he announced. "I want no nonsense. You understand?" The trucks whispered quietly as the large tank engine coupled up to the train. "Crystal clear," came a rough voice. Barry soon set off. He hadn't gotten far when there was an almighty screech. "Ooh!" came an awful cry. Barry and his crew brought the train to a quick stop. "What's the matter?" he cried. His stoker checked along the train before she and the guard noticed it. Looks like this one's put the brakes on." Barry gritted his teeth. "Sorry, mate. Force your habit." The hopper laughed. The driver shook her head and watched as the remaining crew released the brakes. What's this? The stoker rubbed some dust from the side of the hopper to reveal a name written on the wagon's side. "Bolts." "Do excuse the name, miss. Old code name, you see." Barry didn't reply. Over the next few days, Bolts the hopper wagon earned himself a name. He was awfully behaved, and not like Clarence or Leighton. He was dangerous, and always headed out for the engines. First, he caused Donald's tender to come off the line near Edward Station. Then he flicked rocks at Big Mac, smashing his windows. He even pushed Ben into the turntable well. And each time, he'd always cry, "I'm the troublesome truck king!" "Something needs to be done," James snapped. "He's a danger to us all, nothing but trouble. The amount of times we've all had near misses or delays because of him is insane," Benedict barked. "Someone should put him in his place." "What if we pull him apart?" Alaric suggested. "It helped Douglas and Oliver before." "Oh yes, and have blood on your buffers. Leave his corpse in the yard for the other trucks to see. What difference would that make? The trucks resent us more?" Lance grumbled. "Well, does anyone have any better ideas, Alaric?" Duck cut in. "We're not pulling him apart or crushing him. I'm sure we can find a perfectly reasonable explanation." But no one else had any ideas, so the topic was dropped. The next morning, Alaric was asked to assist bank trains up Gordon's Hill. Travis was busy helping at the harbour. "It's just for the day," promised the Fat Controller. "The trains are going to be quite heavy today, and you're... well, look at you." Alaric sneered, but did as he was told. Doc, however, hadn't even left the big station. Boltz's hatch had opened up, causing rock to cover the line and to delay the train. "Can't we just hurry this up?" he grumbled. "I don't want to be late." "Yeah, sorry, mate," Boltz called. "Couldn't help myself." Doc's driver gave the hopper the finger before Doc shunted him back onto the train. "Take him to the works and make sure he stays empty," the yard manager spoke. "Don't want to risk his hatch opening while on the move." Doc and his crew agreed. Doc steamed away without another word. His run had gone well enough. Boltz had tried to hold back, but without any rocks, he found himself quite useless. He was fuming by the time the train trailed into Edward Station. To Doc's dismay, the signals shone red. "Bother!" he grumbled. "Good way to ruin a mediocre run." "We'll need help up the hill, I reckon," his driver pondered. "Just wait and we'll be ready." Fortunately, Alaric clanked in and was readied behind. "Peep, peep, ready, Doc?" Alaric snorted. "Peep, I think so." As the two engines roared into life, Bolts began plotting. "Hold back on the hill and pass the word." The other truck snickered and whispered back down the train. They had a plan fully set into motion as the train charged the hill. Doc felt his wheels slipping as the trucks began holding back. "Come on! Come on!" he puffed. "This is awful!" "Come on!" Alaric called, having no trouble himself. "Full steam!" Doc was coughing and panting and started losing grip. This is what Bolts had wanted from the start. What he wasn't expecting was for Alaric to keep going. "Oh no," he gulped. "This wasn't a good idea." Alaric tends not to know his own strength. He was pushing with all his might. Doc was out of breath and was only just moving on his own. All the weight from both engines and the whole train was being pressed onto his frames. "Stop!" he begged, but it did little good. The snorting and roaring from the two engines drowned it out. Bolts felt like he was being crushed. "Help me!" he cried. At last, Doc heard him. He whistled for Alaric to stop, but by then, it was too late. With an ear-piercing screech, Bolts was crushed between Doc's tender and the front hoppers. Only then did Alaric notice. The train was brought to a stop. Luckily, Douglas was passing, and Alaric's driver rode down with them and informed control. By the time the Fat Controller had arrived, Doc had taken the rest of the train on, save for some of the front trucks which had been pushed off the line. Alaric stood nearby the wreck as James and Douglas set about clearing the gory mess. "That looks nasty," the Fat Controller commented. "From what I heard," Douglas shivered, "it sounded nasty." The Fat Controller made his way to Alaric. "Are you alright?" he asked kindly. No issues here," Alaric replied. "Just hoping those hoppers now will give us some level of respect." The Fat Controller shook his head. "He really doesn't know his own strength." Of course, Bolts was mended and became a different truck. While still troublesome and always up to no good, he doesn't push the boundaries often, and knows that he's quite fragile. The remaining hoppers proved to be like any other troublesome truck. While not as nasty as Bolts, they act out, just like any truck. Alaric was given an earful by the other engines, who heavily disapproved with attempted murder. But the subject was dropped after trains ran back to time. First Douglas, then Oliver, now Alaric. I wonder who's next.